Hey, what's going on, APUSH peeps? We have another document analysis for you today. This one is on the famous newspaper written by William Lloyd Garrison, the Liberator. I'm going to give you arguably the most famous quote from it, and we will break it down together. All right, some background info on William Lloyd Garrison. He was a very outspoken abolitionist from New England, seen as quite the radical at the time. His newspaper began publication in 1831 and went until 1865 when slavery was over. He even criticized the Constitution since it condoned and allowed for slavery, and his Liberator was published, as I mentioned, every week from 1831 until 1865. So for 34 years, his newspaper came out on a weekly basis writing about the evils of slavery. All right, here is his excerpt. From the very first Liberator, I am aware that many object to the severity of my language, but is there not cause for severity? I will be as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice. On this subject, I do not wish to think or speak or write with moderation. No, no! Tell a man whose house is on fire to give a moderate alarm. Tell him to moderately rescue his wife from the hands of the ravisher. Tell the mother to gradually extricate her babe from the fire into which it has fallen. But urge me not to use moderation in a cause like the present. I am in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch. And I will be heard. The apathy of the people is enough to make every statue leap from its pedestal and to hasten the resurrection of the dead. Man, that is some quality writing right there. I wish I could write that well. All right, so let's jump into this analysis. How does Garrison justify his approach towards slavery? So a lot of people did tell him, listen, dude, you have to tone it down. You're being too severe. You're being too radical. And he pretty much answered that complaint right there and said why he's not being too radical. He views this as an important matter. Says it's similar to an emergency. He compares it to a house on fire. So if your house was on fire, you wouldn't be moderate or calm about it. You would be severe. You'd be screaming your head off saying this isn't right. Let's end this. And it's not the time or the place to use moderation, he argued. So now I want you to think about would the following support or oppose William Lloyd Garrison's message and why. Such an important thing to be able to do in document analysis. Think about who would support and who would oppose it. So a group like the American Colonization Society, would they support or oppose his message? You're absolutely right. They would oppose his message. They favored gradual emancipation and sending former slaves to Africa. He wanted immediate emancipation, and there was no talk of sending former slaves back to Africa. Now, Southern plantation owners, would they support his message? Not even the tiniest bit. They would oppose it. He favored the immediate and uncompensated end to slavery, meaning the slave owners would not get paid for freeing their slaves, and Southern plantation owners would be against this. How about those that supported the women's rights movement? We're connecting this to another movement. They most likely would favor it because during antebellum America, the abolitionist and women's rights movement were closely linked. If you were an abolitionist, chances are you were a member of the women's rights movement. If you were a member of the women's rights movement, chances are you were an abolitionist. They were very closely linked. So what arguments did the South use to counter Garrison's message? So if you were reading newspapers in the South or reading arguments about why slavery should be justified, how did the South counter or respond to Garrison's message? Well, they viewed slavery as a necessary evil in the beginning. But by the 1830s, Southern leaders like John C. Calhoun began to justify slavery as a positive good, and that's a good for slaves as well. It's hard to believe, but that's how they actually countered Garrison's message. So be familiar with these questions. Thanks again for watching. Please make sure to check out other documents that we are analyzing together, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck on all your exams, especially the one in May. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.